Welcome back to Strength Cultures podcast. Number one in the heart, number one in the charts. The boys, well, we have been fucking dismantled. Our team is on its knees. Our team is limping. Our team is also enjoying the sun in Port Douglas with Charles away. But we've lost Buzz for an indefinite period. I think potentially minimum of 6 weeks without coming to the gym very often. Once he's out of pain, though, we might be able to pick him up and bring him down to the podcast. But Buzz has had surgery. The update on Buzz, we didn't fake it. He's had surgery. He had, I think it's called a tightrope procedure to improve or fix the syndesmosis, which is a piece of connective tissue down in the lower part of the shank. And he's also got a fracture of the tibia and the fibula, or there was an avulsion fracture somewhere there, which is where the tendon pulls the bone. The bone is the weak part, and the tendon stays strong and rips the bone apart. So there's a bit going on. So Buzz is in pain. He's sitting at home. Hope we got to send him our well wishes. Bless up to Buzz.
I believe there's a hashtag going around, reps for Buzz. Get it trending.
Yeah, reps for Buzz, please. So that's the first one. Buzz out. Then we've got Charles.
Up north.
Up north. He's gone to Port Douglas. His Dusa and Charles have moved away for a week and a bit. They're enjoying the sun. They're getting some rays, getting that Mediterranean olive skin back after some wintry months down here in Melbourne. So we're down to 2, just Dids and I.
Running lean.
Lean is the way, yeah, 100%. We're running lean, but we've always wanted to try a different style of podcast. We have never done it because we've never been forced our hand to do it.
When life gives you lemons.
When life gives you lemons, you got to roll the dice, make a switch, make a pivot, make a fucking plan B, wipe the board clean, and start again. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to do a Q&A, just the two of us. We've thought in the past maybe we could do like a topic one where it's just like 2 coaches and we just go back and forth and have like a semi-round table, but it's just 2 people. So we're just going to try it today and see how we go. Actually, before we get there, how have you been, Dids?
I've been good.
The recap. What's
Played
news?
my first game of basketball. I should say second. I filled in for a mate a couple months ago, but other than that, first game of basketball since 2016. Got the dub.
So you're back in team sports?
Back in team sports.
Why team sports? Why are you back?
It's something I've wanted to do for a while. It's just with some like the early morning shifts, it was like hard. Like if I do a Monday night, I have to get up early Tuesday. But I don't do the Tuesday morning anymore. Thanks, boss.
No worries.
So we have played the 8:20 p.m. game. And yeah, we're in. So
8:20 p.m.
Some of them are 9, so they're late. That's the thing.
God.
They're late. But yeah, me and my mate, and then a bunch of random guys that we met literally 2 minutes before the game. But all went well.
So explain how this team forms, because I've never heard this before until you were explaining yesterday.
For anyone looking to join like a local team, it's not just basketball. There's this thing called Just Play. I think you pay, it might be like $170. They're like, if we don't find you a team, you get your money back, and that covers like the season. They found us a team. And so we're in. So a team that would have otherwise had like 6 players, now it's got 8 players, which is obviously a nicer number.
Did somebody elevate themselves as like the team captain or like the leader of the pack?
No, there's a couple who, not in like an overbearing way, but a couple who are just kind of like rallying the troops a bit, which we love.
Were they good?
They were good, yeah. But
good leaders?
Good leaders. We love a good leader on the court. You need it. But yeah, I've found out getting up and down the court with speed, no dramas, repeat efforts, not so good. Like every time there was a stoppage, I was like, let me get in as much oxygen as possible until the ref hands the person the ball and we're back in play again.
Yeah.
So speed, tick, skills, decent, cardio, no bueno. So that's definitely our rule.
Are you going to be hitting some runs down the back laneway?
I reckon I might just stick to the air bike. I reckon that's all I need. It's just the ticker. The ticker needs to be operating a bit better. So maybe some intervals just to keep up with the pace. But it was fun. So yeah.
Did you win?
We won. We got the dub.
And how many points did you score?
4.
4 points.
I was like maybe 1 of 4 from the field and 2 of 4 from the free throw line. Let's go. Big contributor over here. But no, it was fun. So yeah.
I've just got one more question, because this whole team thing where you don't even know your teammates and you just get started.
It's kind of like I've never used Tinder, but it was kind of like Tinder because they've got an app and they've got like everyone's pictures. And you're like, and so me and my mate were like, that's probably Paul, that's Brett, that's the one of the Wills. It was just, and we're like, hey, I think we're on your team. It was really weird.
What do you wear? How the fuck?
So they give you just like they give you like a Just Play uniform, which is like reversible white and black. I'm number 4, and then you flip the color if needed.
All right.
So yeah.
Fair enough. So there's a bit of structure here. How do you structure the actual gameplay though?
it's a bit freestyle.
You just play zone.
It's a bit play zone. You play. It's freestyle. I reckon
five-man zone.
over the weeks as we know each other a bit better, we might.
Is there any talks of a practice? Anybody like, oh, what are you doing Thursday?
Yeah, no. Like one of the guys having a kid. Like it's a bit like. I think everyone's happy just to hit me to the one a week.
Fair enough. Well,
but that was good fun.
I want you next week. Can you not put your hand up, but can you make a play to become the team captain? Can you just be a little bit more aggressive on the setups? Maybe like blast someone.
If I score more than 4 points, maybe I'll do that. Maybe I've earned it.
All right. You're pass first mentality. Easy. LeBron James. Keep us updated
for sure
with the what's it called? Team play.
Just play. We're the Just Play Boomers.
With the Just Play setup. It's is that what your name is?
We're the Just Play Boomers. Yeah.
Of course. Okay, Boomers. That's too funny. Update from me. There hasn't been a whole lot. I've been in a little bit of a work mode, but we've re-kicked off the mentorship, the online mentorship, no in person, online only. So I would recommend if you are a young coach and if you've followed us along for a few years and maybe seen some of the ex-students or mentees that have come through the program and interested in how they've made some of the progress they have, I'd highly recommend checking it out. You can just go through the link in my personal bio if you're interested. There's also a discount code for 10% off, but it's only running until 11:59 on Thursday night, and this goes up Thursday morning. So you got about 12 hours. The code is early bird, all caps lock, 10% off if you're interested. But again, you've only got about 12 hours if you're keen. But the online mentorship is back, and I'm feeling pretty happy about it. I think it's going to be a good one. Already got a handful of people in there, which is exciting, getting in nice and early. And I'm actually feeling a little bit refreshed from a break.
Yeah, because I was going to say, like, I saw the Jamie in lockdowns, in and out of lockdowns, running the online mentorship. It was a great pivot, but then towards the back end of it,
fried.
You were sizzled. I remember you were just like, there was a number of times
I was depressed.
You're like, boys, I do not want to do another mentorship. I can't do another one. I need to put this off. And at first I'm like, maybe he's just, but it was just consistent, like, I'm done. I can't do another one right now. I need a break.
Yeah.
Obviously, took maybe like a year break.
12 months. Took 12 months off the online stuff. We got back into the in-person ones, which is always my problem with online. And I don't know, I've always been I spoke to David Gray about this on his podcast. I've always been self-conscious about and I also spoke to Luke Tulloch about this, about the involvement in an online internship. And actually getting stuff out of the students in person, I find it so easy to educate
from day one.
Yeah, and I love quote unquote educating or teaching in person. Whether it's the internships, whether it's the seminars or the workshops. We did one with Dan recently. That was unreal. I always leave those feeling like energized and being like that. We made an impact today. But with the online stuff, I don't know if it's Zoom. If Zoom just squashes it, or if you're just less likely to engage on an online sort of, I don't know. I just find that the screen and the Zoom thing just squashes all of the engagement. And I was leaving those feeling like I wasn't making an impact. But then at the end of the course, you get fucking 30 emails from people and like, this was the best thing I ever did. Thank you so much. You've changed my attitude, you changed my outlook, my business is doing better, I've actually implemented something I was thinking about doing or whatever it is. So the impact is there. I don't know. It just doesn't feel the same in person, which is something I've always gone back and forth with. I'm
sure you've probably brainstormed some ideas, but I think a similar parallel might be, like with online coaching, you can run the risk of it being very just like cold, not necessarily cold, but there's not that much of a connection. Transactional. Whereas obviously there's things we have to do to try and account for that, phone calls, maybe video updates, try and get a bit more communication flowing backwards and forwards. So I'm not sure if you've got some ideas maybe with that, how you can get more out of the kind of participants. So you've got
I've got some I've got some like task oriented things. I want to start a Discord. It's also something that we want to do moving forward with some of the new things that we're building in-house with strength culture. So I do want to use that and see if I can build something up there. There's going to be I think the tasks will help a lot because they're pre-tasks. Normally I would do them post, like we educate on something and then there'd be tasks you have to do, but now they're pre-things you have to learn and then you come in and apply it. So I think that will be better as well, but we'll see how we go. I'm going in with a better attitude though. And I also think a slightly shorter course. It's only 8 weeks instead of 12. Typically like 10, 11, 12, you'd see a dip anyway, just in terms of engagement and involvement. So I've decided to go a slightly shorter course as well to see if I can really push that, because it is something that I really want to get out of it. I want to try and recreate the in-person stuff online. Haven't worked it out yet, but this will be I'm feeling more confident with this one than the other ones that we did in lockdown. So
for sure,
I'm feeling good.
With our in-person internships, obviously we get a lot of people applying for those, and unfortunately not everyone can do them because we have a limited amount of people, or it might be due to distance that you can't get there. And of course, like the online mentorship kind of presents a different opportunity. But I think as much as there is a monetary investment into doing like the CDP or whatever this next one's going to be called, it probably works out to, if you think about it from like what you have to give for it, probably works out, well, almost certainly works out cheaper than doing the in-person one. Because the in-person one, you 10 hours a week. 10 hours a week, you might have to drive, there's a significant time investment. So if you were to spend that time working or doing whatever you want versus you spend $1,000, $2,000, whatever, I'm not sure what the kind of price range is, but it's a lot, it's a big chunk out of your week. And obviously our in-person interns, they make that sacrifice and they make their weeks work. But even though our in-person internship is free, there's still something you have to kind of give.
There's still value exchange.
So as much as there's money, it obviously gives you flexibility. You don't have to come here. You can do whatever you want. Like there's a lot of benefits to that.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. The other thing that I think why I felt so burnt out with it is the course that I ended up developing and the structure that I ended up developing was so much like underlying like mechanistic science. So it was very like how does muscle contract, and like learning how muscle contracts, and like motor units and like motor neurons and where it's coming from the brain and how all that, like it was very like almost like physiology, anatomy physiology. That was just one example that I used. But even like motor control and motor learning development, like even that section was like heavily science backed and like the underlying mechanistic reasons why this stuff happens. And then I got to, when we get to the application bit is where a lot of that stuff sort of just boils down to like, this is the way it has to be done. It's the only way. It's the only way that it works. And I found that what I had developed in the course was so much, it almost just became like a university course. And that was something else where I was just like, I don't think that's what I want. Like all the discussions, and anybody that's followed our content for any number of years now knows that we always just come back to the same sort of principles, the same sort of application.
And the application,
that's it doesn't really change that much. And I don't want to get lost in all of that stuff, and I don't want it to be just become an anatomy physiology course. Like, so I think absorbing that, because we don't do it in the in-house internship either, and it doesn't matter for the outcomes that the coaches get at the end of the day. So there's a few big changes that are coming. I'm really looking forward to it. I really am. I think it's going to be good.
And I think like with some of that like application stuff, like an example would be like people spend a lot of time like understanding at a deep level like motor control or stability, and obviously we've talked before like what is stability. But at the end of the day, all that can be kind of wrapped up into just use a good technique, and then for the client, for you as a coach, that's as long as you have an understanding of that, that's pretty much all you need.
Yeah, and where and when that matters more or less, and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, if you are interested, early bird gets you 10% off until 11:59 tonight. That is, I think it's the 14th of July, if my dates are correct. Otherwise, all the information can be found in my bio. If you're interested, I'd highly recommend getting involved. If you're interested in this, the one question I will say to wrap this first discussion up is, I've had a few people ask, I can't make this one, or it's 50-50 if I can do this one. When's the next one? As the whole discussion of me burning myself out, I don't know when the next one will be. I have no plans. I've decided not to plan a second one. I'm just going to see how this one goes and then make adjustments if required. So if you are interested on the fence, and you can make it work, I just say just jump in. You get all the recordings long term for as long as you need them or require them. So if you miss something, you can go back and do it. That's fine. So I don't know when the next one will be, and I'm not going to put a date on it until I'm ready to put a date on it. So that would be the only other thing. So I look forward to seeing you. If you have any questions, reach out to me. But let's move on with the Q&A. Thank you to everybody that engaged with the Q&A. We had heaps. A lot of them was sort of just like what's your favorite rap album or whatever.
Yeah, look, we don't want to get into like what's your favorite color and stuff like that.
Yeah, so
and obviously rap album, we'll save that for Buzz. I think there's better informed people here to talk.
Yeah, there was someone asking us like who our least favorite client is. I don't know if we could do that either. Yeah, so we can't do any of that stuff. But there are some really good questions. A lot of them actually were more business related and like the direction of strength culture, which I think is some interesting discussions. We'll start with the first one, which is like, would you guys ever add to the team or add a new coach or somebody? And we have a lot of in-house meetings about like the direction we're heading and how we want to get there. And obviously it's no secret that we have pivoted since reopening after COVID. There's no secret there at all. We've been pretty vocal and we've pissed some people off, but ultimately we don't care. The numbers and the value and the objective data that we look at, everything is moving in a great direction.
And I reckon even the subjective data of our enjoyment and fulfillment with what we do.
Yeah, exactly. So there's always discussions on that, but hiring has always been one of the conversations that we have in meeting, and maybe we'll just explain why we just have decided against it.
Yeah, we've definitely swung back a lot of times. I think even like individually or as a group, like, oh yeah, we could definitely do it. Nah, we don't need it. Oh, but maybe this person would be a good fit. Or nah, actually, do we want to do that? We've definitely gone backwards and forwards. So as much as now we probably are more of the no side, who's saying that won't change, because it has changed a lot of times.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's reasonable to assume that our opinion could change again on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest thing that we identified, this conversation was probably had maybe 4 months ago now, when content has just started to pick up a little bit of momentum. And there are resources. When I say resources in this context, I'm talking about money. There is money that we could allocate to hiring a staff member and developing them for 3 to 6 months and maybe taking a small hit and getting them to a point where they're profitable for the business. But ultimately, for us to bring a new staff member on and expect to develop and grow that person or that coach, because ultimately they would be a coach or adding into some context of coaching, the coaching revenue, the coaching business. We have 3 other mouths that are still hungry, and the 3 other mouths would be yourself, Charlie, and Buzz. You guys want more clients. You want to grow further. We are growing at a pretty consistent rate, but if we bring someone else on, it just sort of dilutes those opportunities for you guys. We have also, this is a little bit of a scoop, but we've started a new company and you guys are going to be investing into that as well. So it's not as easy now as just bringing somebody on anymore. Things have solidified here a little bit. Our direction is strengthening as a group, and for somebody to join what we're trying to build now, you'd have to add something.
Yeah. I think part of it too is like, obviously with anyone who come on, there's like trial periods, introductory periods, but after that, like if someone, and this is something I've always kind of thought, if someone was to come on, it's like, all right, are you with us? Are you with us for the long term? Do we want you here for the long term or not? And if that's not the case, like, I just don't think, like, we're all at now, we're all, set on that same path. We all want to grow together, build together.
Yeah.
We're all here for the long game. So if someone was to come, it would have to be like, okay, we can definitely see this person hanging around for a long time, and they can see that. If not, it's like, what's it going to do for us? Hang around for a couple of years, work out it's not for them, and then or vice versa. It's just not where we're at. What I would say though is we have brought someone on.
Yeah, we have 100%.
Donnie started just like all of us with a small amount of work built up, so we have expanded. It's just we've expanded outside
in a different direction.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
We just want to say thank you for checking out the podcast. We really appreciate the support. The only reason it is growing is because of our loyal listeners. If you could help us out, leave us 5 stars on Spotify, share it with a friend, and keep checking it out so we can continue to grow to more eyes and ears. Cheers.
And I think just because there was another question on like how to hire someone, more of just like a general business question. But if you are in a position where you're looking to hire an individual, doesn't matter what role you're trying to fit. I learned this from Pete Dupuis, from Cressy Sports Performance. The back end, he runs and manages the back end. He's the co-founder with Eric Cressy, but he taught me that you can hire on 2 sort of factors. You can hire on competency and the competency of the skill set of the individual. That would be like us taking on somebody that has a track record of coaching, can understand coaching systems and programming and nutrition strategies and all of that sort of stuff. They've built and developed that themselves, and they're coming in without having to upskill on that. Or you can hire on fit, and fit would be sort of like just generally the personality traits of the individual and their devotion or their desire to grow and develop in the team, similar to what you said. And we will always hire on fit and fitting in and building and wanting to show the qualities of what we want to do as a group, because the group comes first. So that would be one piece of advice that I would give to somebody if you are looking to hire whatever role, is try and find people that have the same values and direction and drive. And Donnie is the perfect example of this. He had no competency. He took the camera home one day and was like, yeah, I could make that. And we're like, all right, I will make it. And then he taught himself. But the fit of the personality, the person, the values and the drive and the desire to grow and evolve with the role is ultimately what the value was for us, because we can move and mold and grow together. And I think that's better. And that's the same with every single hire that we've made since our first one that didn't work out. Depending on how long you've followed us, you may know who that is. But since Didier joined, or Buzz joined, and then Didier joined, it's been the same. People that want to grow and evolve with us. So right now, we're not hiring. That's the crux.
We're not, but I think over maybe the last 2 years, whatever it is, if someone was in our community, kind of was identified to us as being a good fit, and we probably would have already, like, I'm sure you would have reached out or started the conversation, but it just probably hasn't happened. Like, that's just the reality of it. And
Absolutely.
we're not, obviously, we want it to be like the right fit, not just shoehorning someone in. Like, that's not what we want.
Yeah, absolutely. The time will come, and we don't know when it will be, but there will be more people joining our ranks without a doubt. We're not going to make it to the top without it. So that's the first one. If so, what qualities do they need to possess? I just went through that. So thank you, Jacob, for that question. The next one. Again, another business one. As I said, a lot of these, I don't know why so many of these. We only really got like 3 training ones, other than like the random shit. But building a business, social media, buying a warehouse, etc. The ins and outs of all of that. This is obviously more for myself, but maybe I can discuss some of the principles that I do when developing or think about when developing. Sort of new directions for the business more than anything. I've got to shout out Kyle Trainer to this. He's the one that opened my eyes to a lot of these sort of ideas. He does it in a very peculiar way. He'll just ask you a question, just randomly, just in a conversation, we'll ask you a question, and it just festers in your head. It's the right question that just sits with you for like 3 to 6 months, and then all of a sudden it starts to be like, actually, that is the right thing to be thinking about and moving. So shouts out Kyle Trainer, Pivotal Conversations, one of our good mates, and also doing some really exciting things in the content game, which we love. But in terms of like building a business, when you decide that there is a new direction that you want to move down, I think the best thing that's worked for us since reopening, it's sort of like a new chapter for us, is finding the differentiating factors of what you offer the collective sort of target market, I would say. What do you hold that is different to anyone else in the industry? And when you look at the people that you probably aspire to be, or at least see in positions of more like maturity in the industry. People that are jumping out in my head right now, obviously because we've talked about them already, and that's how we don't have free will. That's another conversation. But Luke Tulloch would be somebody that stands out to me as a differentiated person within the industry. Anyone can make health and fitness content. Put Angus Bradley in this same fucking category. Anyone can make health and fitness content, training content, S&C content, or whatever. But those two guys have created a framework that other people now try to recreate. Because when they started it and when it started to hit, it was so different to anyone else. The infographic sort of swipe post and all that, that's Luke Tulloch. I don't know where he got it from. You'd have to ask him.
But in our space, he was kind of the guy.
In our space, that was him. He started that. And then all of a sudden you start seeing these info swipers and the person's fucking image like crosses over, whatever. It's a differentiated factor. As silly as it sounds, that is enough for people to view Luke Tulloch's content as an individual style of content. You should follow him. It gets shared more. Have a look at this. This is so science-driven, but ultimately pragmatic in its approach, and you can apply it. So that's one. Angus Bradley would be the other one. Just flames topics and makes you question your own fucking beliefs about certain things simply with probably 30 words. The way he frames it and all of that sort of stuff. That's a differentiating factor, and there's no one like Angus. All of a sudden, Angus creates this sort of little community of people that are interested, that are sharing and all of that sort of stuff. So whenever you're deciding to go down a new route from a business direction, I cannot stress enough that you need to spend time and understand why is it going to be different to anyone else. Otherwise, you're just adding to the noise. And the health and fitness industry is fucking noisy enough. Like, it's It's so noisy. James Smith PT, another one. What did he do? He came out and just started saying cunt and swearing and fucking doing whatever he wanted. And people were like, this guy can't talk like that, blah, blah, blah. He's going to piss off. And yeah, he pisses off probably 40% of the community. But the other 60% fucking love him.
They really love him.
They really love him. And he's come out and said it. He said the email chain where I get the most amount of people unsubscribe is where I get the most amount of people that end up clicking buy now and jumping into his programs.
In the same way, some of the posts or reels, or wherever it is, where we get like some real like fucking aggressive hate comments, are the same ones that get heaps of views, heaps of likes, heaps of shares, whatever it is.
Like. And we joke about clout, and we joke about this fucking word clout, and I still can't believe how many people get pissed off by that clout. One word. It's a mirror, guys. It's just reflecting something back at yourself that you're not looking into deep enough. But at the end of the day, if you're going to do social media content, and that's the pivot that we decided to do, we said we think the team is differentiated enough that if we create a megaphone for our business, that this thing's going to move. And it's starting to move. So we're trying to build this megaphone right now. We're trying to grow our brand, grow our voice, grow our impact. But in terms of if you're going to play the content game, you have to view it as a game. And it is a game. And you have to play within the rules and within the parameters of what the algorithms, shouts out to the rhythm.
We love the rhythm.
Yeah, what it allows you to set and actually what works. Because each platform is different. Each platform evolves and updates over time. And you have to follow that. It's a full-time job. It is technically Donnie and my job now. I don't coach anymore. People ask me, what do you do in your week? It's literally just fucking, what are we going to do next? What's working? What's not working? Observing other things. Obviously, there's more things than just that, but that is like probably 50% of my week is just trying to work out how we can grow our voice more and more and more. Part of this podcast and all of that. So that was our thing, differentiation. And I think that in terms of like a business direction for if yourself, a young coach or a smaller business starting to grow and develop, identify the areas that are differentiating you from the voice or the noise of the group.
And with differentiating, the probably easiest way to get there is just to be your genuine self. Because if you try and just emulate other people or do what other people are doing, people can often tell that you're putting it on and it's just like generic. Whereas if
I was going to say Alex Hormozy, please follow Alex Hormozy. He's one of the goats that I would love to get on at some point in some way. But he said anybody that just copies content, you end up just doing it worse. Like you've just stolen it and then done it worse. So you've just added shit to the noise. So it's not the right way to do it.
Just put more of you out there. Whatever that is, just put more of your natural voice, your interests, what you care about, whether it's with training, otherwise, whatever it is. Just be yourself. As cliche as that sounds, that often hits.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely does. Differentiating factors. Again, shouts out Kyle Trainer. The two differentiating factors that I identify the business, I talked about this previously, was one, the team. The team is the strongest differentiator. Nobody can mirror what we have. No one. Doesn't matter how many of like podcasts or whatever pop up or whatever. You can't. And not to say that they are no good. It's just to say that they don't have us.
They can't replicate what we are.
They don't. Yeah, and we can't replicate what they are because it's an individual thing. I want more team-based groups to pop up and really push and like build fun, engaging content. That'd be fantastic. I think it would just ultimately make the industry a more fun place to be and fuck this science sort of era that we've just dived into.
Dry.
Yeah, this evidence-based era where everything needs a PMID, but it just doesn't. Make it more fun. So it doesn't matter who pops up or whatever teams. No one has the characters and the personalities that we have and the interests that we have and the humor that we have. Like that in and of itself is differentiated away from everyone else just by nature of it is an individual beast. And then the other thing would be the facility itself. I used to view the old facility as a burden to the business. I used to see it as more of an expense than an opportunity of an asset to actually generate more passive styles of revenue. And part of the big moving the facility and really dumping cash into the upgrade was so that we could differentiate the facility in and of itself. And I think that started to do its job as well. We just look at our membership numbers and all of those sort of things. But having a cool place for us was important and it allows us to film better content and it feeds everything in all directions anyway. But that was another thing. It's differentiated. Our facility in and of itself is differentiated away from a typical powerlifting facility. So yeah, that's sort of one thing, and I would highly recommend doing that thought process for yourself if you're interested. Also, if you're interested, join the mentorship, because we're going to talk about all this stuff anyway in more detail. The other one was buying the warehouse. I'm not going to go through that on this. I think that will just be too small of a niche to discuss. The final one on more business, and this all feeds into this, and this probably would be a great discussion with everyone, but Didier and I will have the full discussion, is what we envision MSC to be in the future and sort of where the next few steps are. Before we look forward, I want to just look backwards, because there have been some key chapters that we've gone through as a group. Obviously, COVID is probably there was a pre-COVID era where the four of us were working together. It's probably only about 12 to 18 months. I don't think it was too long. But I would even put myself as like a very juvenile business owner there. I didn't really know the direction. I actually would have probably stopped had it not been for Charlie initially, because I was just stressed. I didn't know what I was doing, and I was just burnt out. And then going through the process of delegation allowed me to be like, all right, we need more staff members, build new staff members, Buzz and Didier come on board and all of that. That was the sort of first chapter. We were sort of just fumbling around. And then COVID hit, and we put the physical business in a fucking freezer, close that thing down, but it allowed us to develop all of our systems and structures of the online business, which is ultimately what I actually call ourselves now, an online business. We just have a pretty cool physical space that we can leverage and use. More than half of our clients are online. Most of the education process and revenue from education comes from online. Products and services are online. All of our onboarding processes, even if you're an in-house person, is online. The whole business is an online business now. We just have a cool facility. So part of that has seen this shift away from like coaching. If you're a member here, you would have known that we've dropped coaching shifts. That's what Didier can now plays basketball game, which we love. You run around, we get the flippers out, slap down the court, slap. But that was sort of where we're at. So we're at this point now where it's like, how do we push further into this online space? And that's where we're starting to see, all right, do we actually need more staff members? Probably not. I think there's other ways in which we can grow. Because
if we wanted to continue with the old model, all of us get more and more clients. Like the three of us have never, obviously not including Jamie, but the rest of us have all never coached more people. And most of that happens online. Most of that is at a desk, doing online updates, communicating with online clients, and communicating with our clients in-house through an online fashion. So straight away, that chews up time that we no longer have for shifts, or that we'd rather not spend on shifts because we'd rather spend more time handling more clients. So we dropped the shifts down. Instead of thinking, okay, we can't / don't want to do as many shifts, we need to fill those shifts with another staff member, we've just thought,
just pull the shifts.
We'll pull the shifts, and because we know and we're confident that our value comes from us being behind the desk, coaching our online clients, and that's what we've done. If we wanted to say in that previous mindset of, we need to have a gym that's staffed, 2 shifts a day every day, then we probably would have brought someone else on, because I don't think with the amount of clients Buzz coaches, he wants to do any more than the amount of shifts he's doing. I don't coach as many people as Buzz, but even me, if I was doing as many shifts I used to, I'd probably be burnt out. So. But that's the purposeful decision that we've made, and I think it's gone all right.
Yeah, absolutely. So the future of MSC is just more in that direction of how can we continue to grow online. Content is the driver of it. Donnie and I joke that we're in phase 2 of the business. Just a heads up, every phase will be phase 2, but phase 2 of the current phase 2 is growing our reach, because we believe that everything that we want from the industry in terms of our progression of strength culture as a brand comes from growing our reach. This is the period that we need to, I call it the megaphone, but increase our megaphone. Like get louder, get more eyes on us, and attract a new style of client long term, because we have some lower tiered things that we really want to develop and build into. I look at like the training apps, and we haven't done it. We've talked about doing it for a little while now, but we've held away from it. However, the time is, I think, coming that we begin to develop. Whether we use a white label app is probably where we're going to start after speaking to Eugene, but building in like some apps, some more templated approaches and all of that sort of stuff, and start to build more of an online community away from just the typical like one-on-one style of online coaching is something that we really, that's the Discord group from the discussion earlier. So we really want to build that out and develop that. But the success of that is only going to come from growing our reach, and also starting to offer slightly different content that is just the hyper-specialized, individualized style of coaching, which is what we've really done in the past. A lot of that sort of content, but now you're probably seeing it's more watered down content, more generalized sort of topics, more generalized approaches, because we're trying to become a little bit more generalized in our reach. It's something that we really want to do. Also, why the content style of the podcast is the way it is.
Because it's funny, like we're not really a training podcast or a powerlifting podcast. We're a podcast by some guys that work at a gym. Yeah, we talk about training, but it's not exclusively that. And we never want it.
And we don't want it to be that. Not at all. We don't want to be. We no longer want to be like sort of in a position where we only coach like young aspiring coaches or people that are really trying to push for. We still want powerlifters and all of that sort of stuff, but we really want to open up everything and really be able to help everyone and grow the brand and expand the brand in all directions rather than just a few key pillars where we can get real deep into it.
And we do that by not making... this isn't the only part of it. A part of it is not making this really hyper-specific content, getting into weeds on these really specific X's and O's that caters to a very small amount, but for the majority of people, they just don't care about it.
Yeah, they just don't care about it. So that's all part of that and the direction that we're trying to head. The other thing is, we alluded to it, but there is a new company and the boys are all invested, and it's going to be the first real attack on that is apparel. So there is a fun and exciting apparel brand, but I'll just leave it there. I'll leave it there for now. But we've got some really cool people that we're working with in and around Melbourne, and we're pretty excited for it. I think we found our manufacturer, so it's just fine-tuning the last dots. But keep your eye out for that, because that will be, again, differentiated away from the typical what you would expect from a gym. I think gone are the days where you just grab a logo and shove your logo on a thing. I think if you're trying to grow a brand and trying to differentiate yourself, the way that we like to do that, expect something slightly different and slightly more exciting in the pipeline. That will be another thing. That's something else that we're going with. Again, it doesn't really require more staff members for the time being to loop that first chat in. That's enough of the business talk, though. That was about 30 minutes of business. Sorry if you're not interested in business.
I mean, by the Q&A, most people seem to be interested, but most of our active followers seem to be
because there was more business stuff. Hopefully we covered a lot of that within those. I think we did. We got pretty deep there. That was good. Let's go into some training, though. Didier, Cucklier. Training when in a large deficit. This is something you've got some experience with recently. This guy's put 1K plus, which I'm assuming is calorie deficit, which is a massive deficit.
Big deficit.
Unless you're talking like a week deficit. That might even be a bit small, though.
I reckon he's talking about.
That's a big daily deficit. Fat deficit. Because he's recently lost 50 kilos. Shouts out to you, Steele. I don't know if that's your first name, but it's part of your Instagram bio. But shouts out to you. He can't eat much, but he's lost a shit ton of weight. Well done. How do you train in a large deficit, Didier?
So,
what's your own experience with this first? Layer that picture.
Well, it'll be
because you just went through.
It'll be in there.
Yeah.
So it'll be.
All right. Sorry, I took over. Sorry.
It's all right. So I think the first thing is just. But to be fair, this is just training in general, focused on cutting the fluff out, focus on the exercises, the amount of training that is enough to get you the progress that you need. Doing endless amounts of training, and this could even be like cardio too, like endless amounts of cardio when you don't have a lot of energy coming in can be counterproductive. So trying to make sure all the training we're doing is useful towards us, or at least fairly useful. For the training that we're doing, if we feel like we can't do as many sets, proximity to failure. If we're going to do 4 or 5 sets, but they're all like RPE 6, less sets, but more intensity. I'm very much of the opinion that you're better off doing less, but just doing each set hard. We're probably going to get more out of that than just doing endless amounts of sets that aren't that difficult. Trying to plan your food and carbohydrates around training is definitely another big one. It definitely helps. You can train fasted. You can train on a lot amount of food. It's definitely like an individual thing. But if you find you struggle, having some carbs, a short amount of time before training is generally a good idea. And once again, like with training as a whole, auto-regulate. Through a hard diet phase, sometimes you're not going to feel as good. Sometimes you're going to feel better. Take advantage of that. When you feel really good, push a bit harder. When you don't feel as good, pull back. As I said, this is just good training advice, but obviously it's something you're going to be a bit more aware of when you are kind of pushing into those harder deficit periods.
Would there be any nutritional strategies that you would implement in terms of like obviously not like carb loading, but like positioning meals around training sessions and all of that sort of stuff.
So it could be a case of trying to have like a larger amount of carbs before training. And then also you could even go some like high-low days. If you've got two days of your training that are a bit more difficult, maybe bump your calories up on those days. And then if you've got some days off where you're not doing a whole lot, you probably don't need a whole lot of energy. Something that I think is worth mentioning as well, if you're training first thing in the morning, probably getting like a good sized dinner the night before is useful. Because if you're training in the morning, there's only so much food you're going to get for breakfast. So, and it's not about having carbs and then training an hour or two late. If you had those carbs the night before, that's still going to offer you benefit that next morning. As per usual, stay hydrated, all that type of stuff. But then outside of that, picking exercises. So trying to pick exercises with a high stimulus to fatigue ratio. So for an example, if we're looking at something like our quads, for a high bar back squat, to get a significant amount of stimulus there, we have to go fairly heavy. It creates a lot of fatigue, which is hard to manage when we don't have a lot of calories. If we were to go something like a pendulum squat, we can use a lot less weight, takes us a lot less time to warm up, and with a lot less weight, we're going to not have as much fatigue on our system as a whole, but we're going to put tension on the target muscle in a bit more of an efficient manner. So that's great when we don't have a lot of recovery resources up our sleeve.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you can extrapolate that for all body parts. Should we be doing lots of barbell benching, or should we do some pec deck? Because we're going to hit our pecs a lot easier, a lot less weight. It doesn't require as much energy from us to do that.
Also, more just in general, more time efficiency within the gym. You're going to have shorter sessions, which I think is important as well. Sure. If you're feeling flatter, demotivated, and whatever.
Because it's especially if you think about maybe like doing powerlifting, like two main lifts with 5 exercises plus a lot of accessories, the session length can start to drag out a lot. And this is the amount of time you're in the gym becomes challenging. So that's where just being efficient with it, picking things that don't require a lot of warm-ups is awesome.
Did you find that when you were doing bodybuilding, that your sessions were shorter, more intense?
Yeah, definitely shorter.
Yeah.
Since going more powerlifting, it's a bit longer.
Yeah.
But one thing I probably learned from my old coach as well is use those rest times though. As much as overall the session may be shorter, you may be doing less, make use of those rest times. If you've got time, push the rest minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, 6 minutes. Like the way he talked about it was like supply and demand. Your food supply is really, really low. So at least help yourself out with that.
I like that.
You can't change the fact that your food's low, but you can change the fact that you rest a little bit longer. If we can keep that output a bit higher, it's going to help us get more.
I actually really fucking like that. That's a good analogy.
For sure.
Yeah,
Shout out
absolutely.
Jeff.
Shout out Jeff, without a doubt. 3DMJ. Training, yeah,
I think, and also like, if you're trying to push strength training, trying to at least maintain or build muscle, probably try and avoid doing this large, high amount of cardio, especially of an intense nature. It's just going to, when our ability to recover is already shot from low food, that's going to make it even harder. So try and pick your battles.
Yeah, absolutely. It sort of piggybacks over to the next point, which is somebody asked the difference between, well, they didn't ask the difference. They said, why use RPE and RIR interchangeably when one is subjective and one is objective? This is from Lockie. So this could be...
So running into the semantics, RIR is reps in reserve. How many reps do you have in reserve? RPE technically is a bit more of like a subjective scale. Originally came from the Borg scale, 6 to 20, was used more in like a cardio setting. So it's less about how many reps you have in reserve, and it's more so how hard do you think you're working in terms of like effort. Because obviously with like cardio, we're not doing reps in reserve. It's just like an intensity level. When we say RPE, when most people say RPE...
In a strength training context,
they mean RIR. So some people say RIR, some people say RPE, but 9 times out of 10, they mean just reps in reserve.
And I want to also just piggyback on that. RIR is not any more inherently objective than anything else. Just because we have a scale against reps left or reps remaining, it's still a completely subjective process that is required to analyze how many reps you feel you have left. So they're both in the same way as subjective as each other. So it's not that one's subjective and one's objective. It's just that the scale or the frame that you're using to retrospectively analyze how hard something was is slightly different.
And something we've touched on a million times, your ability to rate effort is never going to be perfect. It's something we want to get better at over time, but it's never going to be perfect. So it's something we've got to be constantly kind of reassessing to ensure that we are making those appropriate decisions.
And you spoke about it with the large deficit training. You said find ways to on good days push, on poor days.
What's the thing? I can't remember one of my new clients. I was explaining it to that like a certain number on a different day can be a higher RPE or a low RPE, and that's fine. If for that day, let's say 80 kilos for 10 is an RPE 8 and that was your target RPE, even if last week it was an RPE 6, that's fine. We don't have to go up. If we are training at that proximity for failure, the exact load we're using doesn't really matter. In fact, it's probably better that we make those adjustments to
pull back. Yeah, have strategies to pull back and, as you said, push and pull.
Because of course, like, you know, we think we want to do more to make progress, but if we do so much to the fact that we kind of like overreach and then our recovery shot, that's going to affect our ability to get quality sessions in over the coming week or so.
Yeah. If you're unsure how to develop the skill set of RPE and RIR, AMRAPs are without a doubt the best strategy. I think in general, most people understand it now and understand sort of like the utility of using RPE strategies with programming. Even if you're just coaching yourself, or you might not even be on a program, you just understand that
got to be kind of close to failure.
Hard training matters, and having a way in which we can gauge how hard the training is or was is important. The best way you could do it is just AMRAPs. Like we love it in the gym when we sort of recalibrate someone or whatever, because you can push someone and they can feel it, and they feel the burn, and they feel all that progress, or that they feel that process that hard training is. But doing it yourself is really, really important. Like even Charlie just did a YouTube video about he's been training like a little runt, he said, with his accessory lifts, and he wasn't putting much effort in, and he still has to calibrate his RPE. Somebody that has 4 or 5 years of purely powerlifting training, but then past that, like 10 to 12 years, probably started when we were 16, 14 years nearly, of just progressive strength training. Even somebody that experienced and that strong still needs to calibrate and understand that it's not always going to be accurate. It's not just something that you can just pick up and run with. You have to constantly be improving at it. I like to think about it. It's the same framework with like budgeting and all of that. You don't just start a budget and that's done. Like you've constantly got to be looking at it, and every month check back in. Is that good? Is that bad? What did I do? I fucked this month up. Be better, recalibrate, refine. So it's the same process. You need to do it with RPE training, but utilizing AMRAPs, especially on things like machine work or low skill movements, things like push-ups, chin-ups, arm training, leg extensions, leg curls, even pendulums. If you've got some people there to support you, probably just stick away from the barbell lifts, squats and deads more so. You can probably do them on bench press.
One thing Buzz does with some of his clients with the barbell lifts is AMRAP at 9. So it's going to be a lot safer and probably a lot less fatiguing to hit something to 1 rep in reserve versus going out to all out failure. Because, you know, we ideally don't want to be failing squats, failing benches, obviously, mainly from like a safety perspective, especially if you don't have spotters, but just take it to a 9. That's probably still going to be good enough for us to gauge where we're at.
Yeah, absolutely. The next one is going to be, how do you integrate your physios into your systems? This actually comes from a gym owner. It comes from the gym, which is Peak Performance. But I'm assuming the owner has asked the question, integrating the physios. And we discussed this loosely off air. And this might sound like a shot at physios or just allied health. Put it under allied health categories in general. But from a coaching perspective, I think the biggest, and we'll get to the answer of how we integrate with our physios here with Evolve Sports Medicine. But I think the biggest qualm with allied health and the coaching sort of service in general is the lack of communication that a lot of these allied health professionals just do not have with a coach. And that it's almost expected that if you stop coaching, if you feel you need a physio, you almost stop coaching with the person, and then you go and fix the issue that needs fixing, and then you come back to coaching. Where in reality, with the way the coaching industry has evolved, it should become a collaborative approach. And I think that's our biggest qualm with non-integrative physio. So it's not so much that we have integrated Dan and Evolve into what we do. It's more that they have integrated with what their service is with us.
But it's not just us, because they don't just work with us.
With everyone.
Whoever they work with, they make the effort to integrate into their training model, into their coaching system.
Yeah.
And it's just as easy as some communication. Like sometimes I'll have a client, they'll go see a physio, and I'm like, oh, so what was the issue they said? And they're like, oh, it was my knee is and they got no idea. They didn't get an email, they didn't get it written down on paper. What they tell you to do? Oh, yeah, these exercises.
Here's a stick figure.
Yeah, here's a stick figure. here's a stick figure drawing of how to do it. But also like, oh, cool. Could you get them to like contact me? You know, just a quick email, let me know. Like sometimes you get it, sometimes you won't. But it's like, how easy to be like, hey, I'll just, add your coach to this email. Here's an email, forward it to your coach. Just a bit of a summary of our session, what I think the issue is, what I think you need to work on, what we can do, what we can't do. Like,
time frames,
just
all
a little bit.
Stuff,
even if you send it to the client and then forward it to us. But so many people go and see these allied health professionals and they get nothing on paper. It's like,
yeah, it's actually crazy. Like, it is actually mind blowing. It very much is. So to answer your question, it's not that.
Find a better physio.
Yeah, literally. It's find better physios who are more collaborative and more open to communication with coaching and the services. If you look at somebody like an Athletes Authority, that's a completely different business model where the physio team is hired by the gym and there's processes and structures in place that rehab clients come in and eventually turn into performance clients, and performance clients that ultimately are going to get injured at some point, whether it's on the field or whatever, falls into their rehab streams, and it's all encompassing, all follow through. So it might be a better question for somebody like Lockie Wilmot, who we've had on our podcast in the past, and we have discussed how the integration of their model has sort of evolved. But for us here, Evolve aren't working with us, or they're not integrated with us. It's that Evolve want to be part of the process of coaching and training. So they go out of their way to communicate and offer. And I'd highly recommend that if you are in need of a physio, to check them out.
100%.
Yeah, a non-biased plug, but a biased plug at the end of the day. That actually is the last question that we had.
Cool.
I don't have anything else that I want to discuss. Do you?
I reckon that'll wrap it up.
That will wrap it up. Thank you very much. If you're interested in coaching, shout out to one of the boys through the DMs, or you can simply just fill out the form in our bio on Instagram or on the website. Just look at online coaching. There's a little form at the bottom. We'd love to have you on board. Other than that, thank you very much. Let us know how we went with the little two-way.
I think we did all right.
I think it was
not too shabby.
It was different though. Definitely different.
Different vibe.
Yeah, without a doubt. Which is sort of what we wanted with it anyway. So let us know. Give us your thoughts. 5 stars on Spotify if you could. Apple 5 stars, and YouTube. Like, subscribe, share. We love it. Ciao.
Not too shabby. Oh fuck.